America's armed forces and our veterans who have served have a long and illustrious history that stems all the way back to before Lexington and Concord. For over 2.5 centuries, our men and women of the armed services have been our sword and our shield against America's enemies, and a guiding light in some of our darkest times. Their long-standing achievements are marked with valor. It takes a special type of person to put their life on the line for the safety and security of our country. A famous biographer once remarked in reference to military service, "We cannot look into the hearts of men, but their actions are open to observation." Our veterans chose the action of courage and sacrifice, to put themselves in harm's way, to combat and stand against the unknown. Retired United States Army General Norman Schwarzkopf once commented on heroism saying, "It doesn't take a hero to order men into battle. It takes a hero to be one of those men or women who goes into battle." Our men and women understand the commitment needed, and they give it freely, knowing it must be done. To stand up for liberty, regardless of the consequences, is courageous. No matter our race, our creed, our political party, or citizenship status, this defines what it is, what it means to be American. The men and women we honor understood the danger they faced defending our country, but they chose to act in the face of that fear. They understood that in order to move towards a more just society, sacrifice was inevitable. These men and women put their lives on the line so that we may live ours. I am so proud and so honored to represent the home district of all these brave men and women who have served. And it is my distinct honor to introduce them and their stories of valor to you.
I joined the Air Force, the Army Air Force, in 1945 and spent 2 years in Germany in the occupation of Germany.
I was in the United States Army from 1976 to 79. I served in the 11th Air Cav Regiment in Fulda, Germany, and it was Sickles Army Airfield that I served at in Fulda.
Branch of the service was the Army Air Corps, and I was in the World War II.
Initially, I actually enlisted in the Florida National Guard in 1974, but then I ended up going to ROTC, so I was commissioned in 1978. And then I continued for about 11 years active duty, went into the reserves, and then actually I left the reserves, retired reserves, 2011, and then actually retired 2015.
I was in the United States Army in 1974, and I ended up getting out as a Specialist 4.
That was a very traumatic situation to be exposed to the disaster and the destruction of Germany, because there were very few buildings standing. Everything was destroyed. And unless you have experienced this, and people walking around with no food, no clothing, it's a very horrendous experience. But I got through it all right, and I got discharged in 1948, and I was recalled to active duty during the Korean War.
Nam was winding down, and so the Cold War, which is people hear about now, it's kind of coming back into the forefront. We were there as part of the NATO alliance to go ahead and then protect the area most likely in Fulda, Germany, for the Warsaw Pact, which was the communist side to invade Europe. So we were right at the door front. We were stationed at the border of Czechoslovakia. And so we were a mechanized unit at that time. That's when they were starting to put together infantry, artillery, air units, air support units. So we would do training exercises to go ahead and prepare for different things. They had a lot of special ops there along the border. So kind of like when you think about North Korea, you have a lot of those kind of things going on in the border countries. So they had people with binoculars looking on our side, we had people with binoculars looking on their side. There's kind of like a little DMZ zone in the middle.
I met different people from different states in the United States and new personalities, people with a different type of experience that I had from California. So consequently, that in itself was a vast new type of a worldwide type of experience, knowing people, knowing places that they existed that I was not aware of.
I always had a desire to go into the military, even when I was younger. And that's one of the things is I was just looking at different branches, especially when I was going into college, because I was looking into the ROTC program. And I decided to go into the Army.
It taught me discipline. It really, literally taught me discipline. Growing up in high school and everything, in the area that I was in, it was kind of tough. There was always gangs and other people that were there, so you had to literally defend yourself. Where in the same time, I utilized those skills, and I was actually to be able to turn them around when I went into the Army. And it helped me to go ahead and get leadership positions while I was there at all facets of the training that I was able to obtain in, again, Fort Ord, Fort Polk, and of course, Bamberg, Germany.
I actually got to go through Checkpoint Charlie and see communist East Germany. So before the wall came down, I got to see what it was like on that side. And I always tell people it was like going from a color photo to a black and white photo. And I'm not kidding when I say even when I went across the border, even the birds stopped singing. So it was very quiet, very surreal. It gave me a big appreciation for living in a free country and what it would be like to live in a country that basically was not a free country, and losing or taking for granted the things that we have here in this country.
I had a tour over in Iraq and then went over in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, I was assigned actually as a reserve augmentee with a National Guard unit out of Connecticut. And we were stationed at a small base, just a company-sized element in Afghanistan. And really, I think the most dramatic situation, that was 2010, was, I remember, in fact, it was May 19th. I was the operations sergeant, and so I was leaving the operations center, and the first sergeant happened to be talking to me, and I was going to go over to where we had a joint operations center. The base was kind of set up, we had buildings with T-walls around it. There was a wide open field, and then there was the other joint operations center that had probably a couple hundred feet away. Right when the first sergeant was talking to me, we got hit by a missile attack. And it landed in that field between the two areas. And if he hadn't stopped to talk to me, I probably would have been right in the middle of that field at the time. Sadly enough, the next day, we were hit by rocket attack again. And this time they actually hit the Joint Operations Center, and one of our sergeants was hit and later on died of his wounds. And that was Sergeant Edward Rivera.
Assemblymember Reyes out there, I see her heart and I can see her genuineness. So when she is honoring the veterans, I can feel her heart for that. But I know that she advocates as well when she goes back to office. So just like me, I'm a grassroots person, I'm an active person. I see her the same way. But the fact that she honors people, well, people honor veterans all the time, and it does mean a lot to us out there. But I think, like I said, from her heart, you could just feel her, just the warmth that she has and the genuine sincerity that she has. But she walks the talk, and that's one of the things that we always look for as advocates and as people who are advocating for our veterans.
Too often people are forgotten about what they do, and we as a people have to be reminded periodically about our life and what people do, what the heroes of our country are all about. And there aren't very many people in our society who recognize our veterans. And to me, as a veteran, I really appreciate that immensely.
My whole goal is not to win awards, but actually just to help veterans in all manners. And Assemblywoman Reyes has always been very supportive of the veterans, and this is one of the reasons why I've always respected her and will support her in any way possible.
Myself and many other individuals really dedicated many hours and very hard work in order to be able to help people that were not able to help themselves in the areas of education, areas of social and economic agencies that would be able to help people in our community. Our goal was to recognize not only those agencies, but also people in the community that were able to be able to have that type of help given to them.
One of the things I think that we all have is we all continue to serve. So we served in the military, but we all serve our community, so we never lose that. And in some ways we amplify that because we are no longer controlled for just one thing. We basically kind of are unleashed. And then after that, it's just basically working with the community and personal relationships and growing those things, all going towards accomplishing your mission.
Anybody that have served in the military deserves all the respect, whether if they were in combat or not. And I can see that that's happening right now, and this is one of our goals as we continue on here in the Inland Empire.
One of the things I'm actively involved in, we're building the Veterans Wall of Freedom in Grand Terrace, but this is open to all veterans. And it's 6-foot block letters that spell the word freedom. And then on the front of it are plaques that veterans can have honoring their service. And the whole idea is really to have the public understand that the freedoms that we enjoy today is because of the service and sacrifice of these veterans.